be, if you log in as chair, you have the same access that I do.
Maybe I need the full. Do I show up as chair or no? Okay, I do.
Yeah, you're showing up as chair.
Okay, as long as I can help with people.
But it's showing up as your phone.
Hmm?
It says your phone.
Oh, that's weird.
Did we get volunteers?
Do we have volunteers? We can't start the meeting without minute takers.
No.
Thank you.
Thomas Fasadi. One more?
One more, please.
Thomas is also speaking, so we need somebody
Yep.
to cover for him. Thomas Fasadi. And one more volunteer. Everyone is looking very busy.
We'll start calling out names. Just Tom, and Hannes can't because he has alternate obligations. But see, draft authors do this. It's a way to get people to know who you are and to get more engaged in the working group. It's really a great opportunity to engage further in the IETF. If you help people, they help you. Would anyone like that opportunity? Thank you, Gary.
I'll put in the regular, the full tool.
Headstock is where the notes are. I'm sorry? We think so. The lights are kind of bright. If you can, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so, and Nancy, you're going to monitor the chat, right? Yeah. Just if somebody that can't get to the mic. All right, so just a reminder of the note well, and which contains a reminder of the note well in terms of what your responsibilities are for participating in the IETF. Please be familiar with what's there. Another reminder in terms of IETF code of conduct. So just be respectful of other people. You can certainly raise arguments, but focus them at the technology and not at the person. And we've got our chairs and note takers, so we will move on to the agenda. So we have an hour today for part A. We have another session on Friday. So this is the agenda for today. Any discussion about the agenda? Going once, going twice. Okay. So that means we will jump into our first item, which is the Concise Reference Integrity Manifest, Yogesh Deshpande. And you want me to present for you?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the RATS working group. This is the first presentation on Concise Reference Integrity Manifest. But before I start my presentation, I would like to kind of mention few words like many people here are new in RATS working group and they don't understand what is Concise Reference Integrity Manifest. So basically, RATS is all about attestation, and for attestation, you need verification of attestation, which means verifiers, and for verifiers to perform their roles, they need reference values or endorsements to assess the verification. And for that, CORIM is an information model and data model to convey reference values and endorse values to verifiers. So here I'm going to present what we have been doing from since IETF 120, what is the delta between 120 and 121. So next slide, please. So the organization of my presentation is general status and progress, what we have made, and then what tidy ups we have been doing, some addition to the core draft of Corim draft, then major enhancements and verifier phrase explanation. Yeah. So just a clarification here, the new GitHub issues are the issues since IETF 120. So we have total 48 issues we created in our repo from 120 to 121, and out of which we have managed to successfully resolve 19. There is a lot of active work going on in the Corim repository, and there are still some pending issues. There are 29 of them, out of which there's some tidy up to the text, 7 of them. We need to clarify the specification more clear to the new audiences. That's 10 issues, and then we are working on verifier algorithm improvement. So that's 12 in number. So next slide, please. Yeah, so we have tidied up the definition of security version number just to clarify that if there is a security vulnerability detected and SVNs are updated, one cannot decrement the SVNs. That's one thing we clarified. And then the SVNs could be just simple SVN, tagged SVN, or tagged min SVN. That is the enhancement we did. Certain triples in the sections were tidied up based on optimization, and so we ensured that we retained the old code points because Corim has been actively used by many organizations. We just wanted to retain the backward compatibility. And then we moved around some sections for better readability of the document for explaining the verifier role, and that's still a work in progress there. And then we clarified the device identity triples, its scope, and how verifier would use it. And then we added some clarity on the definition of appraisal claim set. Basically, appraisal claim set is the internal context of the verifier when it is doing the appraisal for a particular attester, for the particular evidence coming from the attester. So we did work on the tidying up the definition for that. And then we had new contributions and much more contributions from new working. Our drafter development has been expanding, and we have Andy Draper from Intel and Diona Glaze from Google joining along and producing a lot of pull requests and giving very valuable feedback. So we acknowledge their contributions. And earlier we had a concern that people are not aware of where the meetings are happening. So the README Markdown has all the meeting details. So if you go to the Corim repositories, feel free to join us at 4 p.m. UK 3 p.m. UK every Wednesday. Yeah. Next slide, please. So these are some minor additions to the course spec where we have expanded the certification crypto key type choice to have ASN1 DIR as one of the types. I will explain a bit about what MKey implies in the subsequent slides, but this local measurement identifier, which can be expandable, and we have added string type to that and clarified its extensibility. More importantly, we added a security and privacy considerations to the verifier operation. So what security, if you're operating a verifier, what security considerations one should do, the discoverability of the bill of materials, the auditability of the verifier, the attestability of the verifier, all that thing makes the verifier implementation much more secure. So we have added that clarity. And then we made some verifier algorithm matching test more clear. And then finally, we have added some, there are some unique code points in Corim, Comid, and COBOM maps. Each of these needs to have some unique code points that needs to be registered with the IANA. So we have added certain code points to be registered with IANA, added specific tables for that. Next slide, please. Yeah. So on the lines of this, we have added a major enhancement to the triples. Basically, what we have done is earlier, if you see the earlier draft, a triple conveys the reference values or endorse values for an environment. But what we noticed coming from the different root of trusts is that an environment can have multiple measured elements. So your root of trust can comprised of multiple measured elements from your trusted computing base. And it was not easy to represent that, because if you want to represent such kind of an expression, then you need to write multiple reference triples, which means a lot of duplication of environment in each of these triples, plus There could be a case where you will have multiple authorities producing measurement elements, measured elements, and so target environment can comprise of multiple measurements. So we have kind of optimized the triples to express such kind of multiplicity in a much more seamless fashion. Here, as you can see, the M key is you can call it as a local measurement identifier, which identifies uniquely the measured element, and it is an extensible choice. So if you want to express it as a string or an integer, or if you have your own specialized expression, you are always have the flexibility to expand it. Yeah, next slide, please. So this is how now the triples in the Corim draft looks like. A reference value triple record consists of an environment map to which these reference values represent, and the measurement map has a multiplicity now, and in the measurement map you would express all the reference values on the left, and that those are multiple, so you can represent in the measurement map a unique M key and an measurement values map which has all the reference values, be it a digest, a security version number or version or IP address, MAC address, or anything like that. And similarly, endorsed triple report express the environment map and the associated endorsements which needs to be supplied to a verifier. Yeah, next slide, please. And we have much richer semantics where you want to supply endorsement based on a particular state of the attester, say like an environment which is having a specific version of firmware. Let's say it's called a stateful environment, where you know the particular revision of the firmware and you want to specify endorsements for that. You have conditional endorsed triple record that also gets modified because of the addition of measurement, multiplicity of measurement. And similarly, conditional endorsed series triple record, where you match certain set of conditions coming from the input into the verifier state, and once the condition matches, you apply additional endorsements to the verifier. So next slide, please. So we have kind of done a major tidy up of the internal representation of the verifier. So as I was mentioning earlier about the appraisal claim set, the fundamental unit of verifier internal representation is environment claims tuple. Effectively, it represents an environment, and certain set of claims associated to that environment is the fundamental building block on which all the verifier internal processing is conditioned or it's structured, and that is used to build appraisal claim set and all the external messages which are passed to the verifier, be it evidence coming from the attester or reference values coming from the supply chain, endorsed values coming from the supply chain, all are represented using environment claims tuple. And the draft is very well elaborately expanding on how you would use these ECTs for doing the verification of appraisal based on your appraisal policy. So in short, the environments claim tuple, as I mentioned, consists of an environment element, which has an element map, which has an element ID, which is equivalent to your measurement ID, which is equivalent to your M key, and element claims, which means all the measurement claims is part of your is the composition of environment claims tuple. And then based on this new tidy up and new restructure, a lot of matching algorithms needs to be reworked upon. So the tidy up is still ongoing. The matching algorithm semantics is still ongoing, but bulk of the how you match the digest, how you match the SVNs, and all these kind of fundamental matching required in the verifier processing has been tidied up, and the work is still ongoing. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so that's all about my presentation. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
To raise hand, right? And then the tool does it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions? Has anyone read the draft in the latest form?
We see
Okay.
one hand there, but
Okay, so perhaps some more people can,
Queue is in the queue.
oh, okay. All
Hank's
right,
in the
queue is forming now.
I request everyone to have a look at the draft so that they can provide valuable feedback. So, yes, Giri.
Yeah. Gary Mundy, Media Tech. Is there going to be a tie-in between the skit work and COBOM?
Sorry, I mean, skit,
SCITT.
yeah, skit work talks. There is a connection between skit and Corim. Corim provides endorsements, which are essentially metadata about the attester,
Yeah,
and um, skit provides a mechanism to make those transparent and available. So there is a connection here, but I'm still trying to understand what exactly is your question.
there's no, in the documents
Yeah.
that are in the skit working group right now, there's no mention of CORM or COBOM in in those documents. In fact, there's an API document
Yes.
that's there. So and the underlying art in the baseline architecture document doesn't say how quorum integrates into the end-to-end verification for supply chain integrity. So that's why I'm asking: is there any
Yes.
intention of eventually incorporating quorum more formally into the skit work?
Yeah, since I'm one of the co-authors of Skit, so I can answer this question. Skit provides an open architecture for pushing stuff into a transparency where they talk only about the COSE envelope. What you stash into the COSE envelope is entirely up to your use case. But what you made is a very valid point. Perhaps we can add that in the Skit explainer document as probably some kind of a guidance document of how Skit can be used to by the supply chain actors to supply their endorsement in a much more transparent manner using Corims.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Hank?
Hank?
Yeah, hi, this is Hank. And you said the exact thing. I just wanted to add guidance document. So the reference API in Skit is tailored towards the software supply chain. And feedback with the Linux Foundation SBOM group that's called SPDX. We realized that the CORM basically is a glued blob of HBOM and SBOM. It can't be really separated because the trustworthiness is in the composite of the environments and the corresponding TCBs. But it is very natural to assume that the tag we have included in every CORM is very similar to the identifiers of SBOMs, for example. So I would assume when the reference API in Skit will support SBOMs as a tangible example to get back all the initially involved supply chain stakeholders, so to query the SBOM finally, it's only a tiny step further to then also do this with CORM.
Yeah, perhaps we can add the media type for that kind of conveyance of that payload in the COSE.
There will definitely be a CMW relationship here.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks.
And
nice question. Any other question? Yeah. Yes.
from the
please.
list, there is,
Dave Thaler's on the
Dave Thaler mentions that the COBOM reference is broken. Perhaps that draft expired or something.
Okay. Wait.
There was a,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I corrected it later, but that is not published yet. So in my latest. Yeah.
Thank
Yes,
you.
please.
As you mentioned, environment claim tuple in your
Yes.
slide.
state your name, please.
Yeah, but as I didn't find it in the draft, and also I don't know like what is the relation between this and the appraisal claim site.
So appraisal claim set is a slightly outer representation of when the appraisal happens and things get added to it. Appraisal claim set keeps keeps getting constructed, but ECT is the very fundamental unit on which all these things are built upon. Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is conceptual message wrappers.
Next, please. Right, conceptual message wrappers. For those who don't know what this is or have forgotten, is a quick recap. We are trying to create a wrapper format for transporting any remote attestation message, including evidence, attestation results, endorsed values, or reference values, and so on and so forth in any hosting protocol. So whatever transport you're gonna use is a RESTful API, is it TLS, or what else? You can use this sort of wrapping format, of which we provide two serialization, JSON and CBOR, and the whole typing of the structure is based on the Internet Media Types, 6838. This is the 1,000 million view. But if you are curious about it, there's a presentation that is linked in the slides that you can take a look at, which goes into the gory details of the format and of what you can do with it. Next, please. So this is one slide from Jonas, who worked during the hackathon on an implementation of the latest version of the draft. We have a reference implementation in Verizon of the CMW format, which ends up being complete and match the spec. And since we had a lot of churn in the spec recently, there was a need to actually make the implementation match the state of the draft, on which Jonas worked very actively during the hackathon, and here is his feedback. He has a branch, draft 09, which you can look at, that contains the work in progress, on which is going to continue the activity during the week. And maybe one interesting bit to highlight is that he found out that there was some wording in the doc that was a bit confusing from an implementer perspective, and therefore he crafted this PR 128, which is, I don't remember if I merged it already or not, but it contains basically the clarifications. So next, please. Thank you, Jonas, by the way. Okay, update since last meeting. We ran the second working group last call in August. And we went from 06 to 10. So we had a lot of work in the spec. This is the breakdown of basically what we did. We had some editorial clarification from Jonas and Mike. Thanks very much, both, which have been incorporated. These were easy. Lawrence provided input on security considerations, which were a bit thin, and that's been added. Carl identified a problem with the CDDL. Actually, the text was right, but the CDDL was a bit broken and needed some attention. So there was this bug fix there, and then we editors looked at a bit at the structure of the document and made sure that the presentation was in the right form. Jana came to us last week with a bunch of observations about the registrations that we are requesting to clarify this and that bit, and we addressed that input in 10, which we pushed yesterday, I think, Ned? Excuse me. But there, if you click on the link in the first line of the slide, you will get the actual diff and check what we changed. I will probably go into some details next. You can skip, I don't know. This is the editorial clarification from Mike and Jonas. These are the pointers to the PR if you're curious. Next, please. Right, so this is a bit more beefy. Is Lauren's feedback on the lack of security considerations around the composite attesters and how we model composite attesters in collections. That required us to change section 9, well, actually add the text that was addressing is a particular concern in section 9, and we also had some sort of restructuring there, where we separate the security considerations about monads CMW from collections. So we have two separate subsections there that handle the different requirements. And we also had to work on the actual definition of the collection in section 3.3 to point out the fact that, okay, we cannot tell the attester what they need to do in order to provide the security needed to bind basically the element collections among them, but we can state some of the requirements that are absolutely necessary, and so that's what we did. PR 113 and 117, if you're curious. But next, please. So we have one open point, which came from a discussion, wider discussion that about the typing system in RAS, and it's about tightening a bit the type system that CMW allows. Next, please. So the current state is that we basically have, we start from a media type, we then derive one or more co-op content formats, and then using 9277 TN, we automatically derive CBORD tags for them, right? So from the top level media type, we have a very ordered sequence of typing, which is co-op and CBORD tag. But we also allow a second way to feed the CBORD tag serialization via pre-existing CBORD tags. And this has pros in the sense that if you just want the CMW tag, then you don't need to register a media type and a content format. You just go with the registration of the CBORD tag. But the con is here is that there are two potential sources of truth which can create problems in the decoding and off path. And in general, well, this is an implementation consideration, but from more architectural consideration, you have a way to introduce ambiguity in your type system, which is not particularly good. Next, please. So the proposal is to remove the ability to use pre-registered CBORD tag and just go with the TN-derived CBORD tags, which has the pro of you have a tight and coherent type system, and from an implementation perspective, you have homogeneous decoding and off-path. It doesn't require any special casing of the actual dispatching. But it has a con, which is it breaks any legacy implementations, of which I am one of the. I have one of these implementations, but my point was that all right, it will require some work to fix this thing, but and so in the short term is pretty painful for me, but and for any other people that have implementation based on that, but in the long term this should be better for everyone, and so this is where I think we'd like to go, unless there's any pushback. Next, please. So we need to, next steps, we need to actually take a decision on the tighter type system topic, which that I've just explained. Once we have that, we will do the associated surgery to the draft, and then we publish a new version, and I think we are done with all this. Also, in the meantime, thanks, Kathleen, we have a shepherd. Jonas has stepped up, and Kathleen has approved his well, I don't know how to call it, but shepherding. And that's it. Well, there are other interesting considerations about ASN1, but I'd rather not discuss them here.
Okay, we have a queue forming. So Deb, you're up first.
So I may want to go last.
Okay, Lawrence?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I don't have a clear thing to say at the moment, but I'm finding the use of the TN tags, I'm still not very enthusiastic about that. It just seems like you can sidestep that because everybody else is just using tags in a regular way without specifying into the TN tags. But and I've been providing some commentary on that, and I will continue to try and figure that out. I've been doing a lot of compare and contrast of how EAT submods work internally to CMW collections because they do very similar things. And that's kind of been an interesting thing to come to understand it. So that's the first point, is that I'm not so enthusiastic about the TN tags and the specific parts of that, and I will comment on it. The second is the thing that I wanted to mention was that I believe there's still some text in there that says it's better for layered attestation. And if that's still there, I would really like to see that removed because I don't think that is a correct characterization. I think EAT is just as good for layered attestation as CMW collections.
Thank you. So on the first point, yes, let's discuss this, see whether we get an agreement. And on the second point, we have removed, I think if you look at -10, you won't see that text anymore.
Okay.
So it's already gone.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
So you all had asked for early allocations of registry points. And we still have not heard from Carson on the CBOR requests. So my question is, do you still, given that you look like you may want to move this along, do you really still need an early allocation point?
Don't think so. Yeah.
Would be easier to not
Yeah, I think.
track the beast.
If we can converge quickly with Lawrence on the TN tag thing, then I think
Right.
that's the only remaining
Okay.
to discuss.
It would be better, from my point of view, it would be better if you didn't have to, just because it's so much, right? Because you need CWTs, JWTs, and
Yeah.
CBOR.
Let's go
Right.
with this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're a few minutes ahead.
Yeah.
Yep.
2 minutes ahead.
Yeah, it's 3:33. Next one is up at.
The schedule's wrong here.
Yep.
It should be. Yeah.
Yep, attester groups for remote attestation.
This is the one you want?
Okay, yes, it's the right one. Okay, hello everyone. This is Zhang Jing. I already present this in the internal meeting, but this is my first time present in the the formal presentation. So next slide.
Just a second. Okay.
So, what's the progress from the version 0 to 01 is that, okay, now we are in the GitHub family. So we set up our GitLab and we use the Crackdown to write up the plain text. And so the update is not too much. We have added more detail about the comparison between our attester group and the existing composite device concept. And we add 2 more sections. One is in the for the attesting group extension and the section 5 on the use cases. Next slide. So talk about the motivation. So the goal of the concept of the attester group is that we want to reduce the computation and the communication overhead to pass the evidence of a group of attester to the verifier. When these large number of the attesters are identified to each other, I mean that they have the same property. So actually we are more interested in that whether this group is trustworthy rather than whether this single entity is trustworthy. So go to the next slide. So we give two use cases in the European project. The first case is that we have the airplanes. So we want to examine that whether the unit header is in a good state. So one thing is to remotely to use the wireless technique to calculate this kind of evidence to verify that this vehicle is in this airplane is in the good state. So use the ATtest group. We expect that we can consider the ATtest group of thousands of airplanes. And the case is for the vehicles that inside the vehicle we have the electrical ECU that we want to examine that for a large number of the vehicles in the intersections of the same brand, whether they are in a good state or not. So this is two use cases we have considered. So next slide. So we have considered our ATtest group of the concept already existing in the IFC 9334, that is the composite device and the layered model. So in the layered model, you need to do the attestations layer by layer that you need to ensure that the bottom layer is attested, and then you can use the upper layers to construct its attesting environment. And for the composite device case, that you need to have a leader attester that can connect with the verifier directly, and it will collect the evidence from other attesters and combine with its own claims to form aggregate evidence and send to the verifier to prove that these composite device. One example is that one computer that you have the monitor, you have mouse, and you have hardware, etc., to show that this computer itself is trustworthy. And next slide. So actually, we will show that there's some difference of the concept of the attester group and the composite device. So for the composite device, you always need one leader attester, so that when you form the format of the evidence, you need to have the topology of who is the leader attester and how in the hierarchical way, how you form up these kind of evidence. And in our concept of the attest groups, there's no leader attest, or we can see that there can be multiple, everyone can be the leader attester if they have the ability to connect with the verifier. And the second difference is that for the composite device, it is identified by its leader attester. Usually it's by its certificate linked with the leader attester. And in our case, we want to that attest group is identified by the group ID rather than the ID of the leader attester. And the third case that for the composite device, there's a composition of the evidence. And so, so finally, the evidence will be super large if you have the 1,000 device to be composed together. And in our case, because the device are identical, so it's the same as each other. So actually, you do not need to put all the evidence together because, for example, for pairs of the device, you just need to check that whether their evidence are same or not. So if they are not same, so at least one does not fulfill the requirement at the verified side. So in that case, we can reduce the processing of the treatment of the evidence and the communication of the evidence. Next slides. So where we'll put this extension, so we expect to put this extension in the IFC 934 in the section 3 and one more section for the attester group, and in the draft attestation results for secure interaction section 2.2, we want to put one more line in the table below. Okay, next slides. So actually, so we hope that we want to define a new mechanism that to utilize the similarity between the attesters to avoid redundant attestations. So, and it is that the concept is not based on the composition of the evidence. And so this tester group can be dynamic, and a tester can join or leave this group. Next slide. So this is some response to the questions raised in the interim meetings. So Kathleen, thank you for your comments talking about the similarity between the posture assessment draft to our work, and want to see that whether there's a chance to combine these two or have the chance to cooperate. So actually we appreciate the comments, and we have seen that in this remote postural assessment for systems, it has proposed an architecture pattern where a remote attestation can be issued for a set of benchmarks or controllers that define a group by external entities. So we want to know that whether this draft will involve a single entity attest or could be suitable for several attesters. So this is our questions raised by these comments. And next slides. Okay, thank you.
You have
And
people
your
in the
comments
queue.
and discussion are welcome.
Okay, so Gary first.
Gary.
Gary Mundy of Media Tech. Thank you for putting together a vision after the interim. Are you planning to add a discussion on how anti-replay mechanisms are handled in a tester group scenario?
Yes, so currently we have proposed the concept of the attest group, but later we want to have some more discussions with people that are interested to see that how we can have the mechanism to have low overhead forming of the evidence, and how deliver the evidence from this group to the verifier.
Okay, so so you will do it in the context of RFC 9334 mechanisms for
Yes,
questions?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Kathleen, so to go back to the point from the interim, it's working at the two drafts are working at the same problem set, but with different architectures. I don't see how they would merge. The posture assessment has a fully traceable path and scales in that you're not transferring all the data, but you can trace it back so that it would pass audit requirements. And it is now an adopted draft. So my question really is to the working group, is this other pattern needed as well?
I think that one way is that inside your draft, we can add one part, have the discussion that for the attest group, how to treat the group of the attester. And another case is that, so because our focus is that, so for the group of attesters is sometimes it's redundant to transfer all the evidence from all the attesters to the verifiers, because actually if they are trustworthy, they should be the same.
Right. The posture assessment doesn't transfer everything. It transfers that the expected policy was met, not met, and then just the difference. So you are actually transferring a much smaller set, which is a different architecture than what you've proposed. But it's all traceable.
Yes, for this, we need to first have the first discussion.
Yes, yes. So that's what I asked for in the interim.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have an answer there.
Yogesh is on the queue.
I have many questions, but I will just ask one here and discuss later for others. Have you seen swarm attestation? And if you have seen it, how different is that from your protocol? Or what is the one you're planning to propose?
Can you repeat your question?
Have you heard of swarm attestation,
Yes.
SWARM attestation, and how is that different from your proposal?
Yes, I have heard as well attestation, but actually I do not see the draft related to SWARM attestation mentioned in the RATS group. Actually, it's quite strange for me that we do not. I have, as far as I have read, I do not see it. In the papers, there's a lot, but in the RATS group, there's no, as far as no. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mohammed.
How about you, Dresden? So I also have many questions, but I will stick to one. So you mentioned about the group attester,
Yes.
and I wonder if that is the same as Intel's EPID. Is there privacy also included in that group attester?
So for our concern, when you talk about the DA, actually the privacy is not our first concern. The first concern is try to reduce the size of the evidence, because we are more focused that whether this group is trustworthy or not. It's not that the particular attester is trustworthy or not.
Okay, but then you are back to the same problem, right? So you don't have privacy. So you still have the same privacy concerns.
But in this case, we will consider the group. So we are not actually, so whether, so for example,
so each element in that group is still identifiable by a unique identity or not?
So in our consideration is that we do not care whether one entity A is not trustworthy or its entity B is not trustworthy. As long as it is inside this group, it is not trustworthy, and the whole group is not trustworthy.
Okay, thanks.
Thomas Fasadi.
Hi, one question. You say you cannot model this as a composite device, right?
Yes.
But then well, I haven't read the thing, so pardon my ignorance. But then you say that there's a lead that signs the topology of the whole thing.
Yes.
Right. So couldn't that thing, be the actual lead attest in a more generic sense?
Because currently when we refer to the composite device in the IFC, or it's current, I think that in the CCC, attest the TRS, SIG, so there's also some discussions that how to form up the topology of the one question is that if the topology change, so you need to have the change of the Godel measurement at the verifier side. So, but for our case, actually, it's for each device is identical. Is that order does not matter. So we think that we hope that we can have, or you will have multiple nodes that can send these kind of combined attestation result. Actually, it's not combined. It's just one summary of them to the verifier. And do not have this huge topology dimension, and do not need to rely on one or several short small set of the leader attester. So this is what we expected.
Okay. So maybe I haven't dug enough into the thing, but I suggest you look at step back a bit and see whether you can model that.
Yes,
By looking at the system, entire system as the attest,
yes.
rather than a single device.
I expect to have the people that have the real experience how to have the form of the evidence at the composite leader attester side. Thank you.
Dave Taylor. We're not getting your audio.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you now.
All right, great. Just wanted to follow up on my question from the list, which is related to maybe Mohammed's question here. You answered part of the question, which is about a difference in the use case. Okay. The other question I'd ask, is there any individual identifying information in the actual message itself, or is it just group stuff? And as I understand, in your slide 6, you answered it by saying, no, you don't have to compose anything. There's nothing that identifies like all 70,000 devices in the group, right? You just say that the draft says that it has a group signature. To me, this sounds like the same type of solution that DAA provides, could provide this too. And so that was my question, or my suggestion for the draft. It says you should talk about the relationship between those, because it could be that you don't need a different solution. This is just a different use case. So my answer to the question that Kathleen asked earlier is it could be that all this is an alternate use case for the DAA solution, and the better draft to combine it with would be DAA, just saying, here's another use case, but it's the same solution, right? So right now I would look at, is that the right draft to combine it with, as opposed to Kathleen's draft? So like Kathleen, that's my answer to you, in my opinion. So.
I couldn't hear everything you said, Dave.
Dave's questioning whether the DAA draft is a better way to combine this work than with the
Yeah.
other draft that you were mentioning.
Oh, but it's different.
Right.
Oh, my goodness. So mine is
Right.
adopted.
That-
Just to make that point, Dave.
I'm just going
It's
to,
different.
Ned is right. The draft that DAA has a solution and it has a use case. What I see this presentation about is an alternate use case, not a motivation to have any different solution. So it could be, and again, maybe I don't understand it right. It could be that all there is another section in the DAA draft that says, oh, and here's something else the same solution can also solve, which is the performance case as opposed to the anonymity case.
So Dave's proposal is suggesting that the DAA draft already addresses the use case, and we don't need a new draft.
Yeah, it just doesn't talk about the scalability use case. The scalability says, I got 70,000 devices or whatever, which the draft being presented here only contains use case information. It doesn't propose any solution right now. It just says a group signature is used, which of course DAA does have a group signature, right? And so.
So we're out of time. We have 10 minutes for your other presentation. Hank, quick, please.
Okay. Yeah, we can talk to Li Chen about the DAA similarities, I think, because of the group join and leave behavior, for example. Yeah. There could be a synergy there. That is definitely true. I just wanted to cycle back to the use cases, to the airplane, for example. In order to get an airplane certified, it has to be really homogeneous. You can't get an airplane certified in a way that is flying. You put it into a weird dormant state that is very homogeneous. And then after certification of that aviation part, you click a button and then it unfolds. Everything gets customized and then it becomes an actual airplane. You have like a dam and thousands of pressure and humidity sensors. And all of these are initially also at the same state when you activate the system, and then they get their own data curves and such. So there is a similarity to groups in DAA, I think, but the use cases is very different. So we have to be very careful that we not lose the details of the use cases when we try to compare to include in DAA, and I think Li Chen will help us there because she knows.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, actually homogeneous devices, so very important concept in the draft.
Okay, next topic.
Okay, next topic is me again. Okay, the topic is handling multiple verifier in RAS architecture. So basically we want to, so currently in the RAS architecture is just one single verifier. So we'll show that there's some use cases we need multiple verifiers and how we treat them well in the RAS architecture. Next page. So same that we go from the plain text to the current down and set the GitHub, and the change is that we add some examples that in which case we need multiple verifiers, and the reasoning that why the multiple verifiers cannot be replaced by a conceptually single verifier, and more details of the functions of the verifier manager. And so we add more details to the two use cases. Next page. Yeah, so this is some answers to the questions from the internal meeting. So the first question is that for the verifiers, I talk about that whether the multiple verifiers are the same verifiers or the different verifiers. We will say that depends. So we consider that they can be the homogeneous verifiers. In this case, we have the multiple verifiers is for the resilience, and it is the heterogeneous verifiers. So in this case, the attesting result can be the composition of the attesting result received from different verifiers. And so what we want is that the rain packet does not change anything to the evidence, so it will just in charge of the forwarding for the evidence collected by the attester and to all the selected shortlisted verifiers. And so how to handle the attesting results from different verifiers, if they are different, it depends on the local policy of the ruling party. And the second question is that whether a single logical verifiers can cover the case of the multiple verifier. And so is it more implementation specific or conceptual? So we'll say that it is conceptually we need the scenarios to architecture to define how to dealing with multiple verifiers. The third case is for the resilience. And the second case is for the interoperability. And the third case is for the freshness. So currently in the FC, so it's the verifier generate the nonce. So actually, so in case of the multiple verifier, so I think that it's better to let the ruling party to generate a nonce so that it will reduce the amount of evidence sent from the attester side.
Okay, so there's 5 more minutes of the meeting. A queue is starting. Do you want questions as you go, or do you want to finish?
Okay, I think that it's time for the question. So especially people are already attend.
Thomas?
Hi, Thomas. Fossati Rinaro. Can you please explain me why resilience is the actual key here to understand why you cannot conceptualize the multiple things into one single
So
object?
conceptually, we're seeing that, okay, so at the ruling party side, you can configure verifiers that you want to contact. But if for a conceptually verifiers that it is still, in some cases, not available, that so for the resilience, we should allow the ruling party to configure multiple verifiers to reachable that you can send same evidence to them and get the answers at least from one of them.
Sorry, how is that different from, say, for example, a web server farm, where you have a single origin, an HTTPS origin that serves the same page, but it's distributed across multiple different pieces of hardware. And from the point of view of the relying party, that is the browser, the user agent, there's absolutely no reason to make it, differentiate between.
So actually, our architecture will give more, I would say, more right to the ruling parties to let it handle the time of references, let it to handle that what kind of verifier you need to pick up. So in the original architecture, you can just pick up one, right? And how it is composed, the attesting result that you just rely on one verifier. That means that you need to have the trust models between the ruling party and these single verifier.
Actually, no. If you look at how a CDN is organized, you have data that flows from the client, from the user agent to the reverse proxy that is in the protocol, and it is used by the reverse proxies to actually to pick which backend to use.
So actually, so you pick the backend, right? In this
case,
a
backend verifier.
Yeah,
so you have a front-end verifier that dispatches.
So currently, I mean, in the RAS architecture, you do not have such kind of concepts as that. You have one backup verifier to be configured that in terms of the failures. So think of the case that we have one VM service that need to attestations. So you rely on one single companies, and these companies have some DDoS attack. So even they have the manuals to counter DDoS, but if this company failure totally, right, you need to rely on another company to this. In this case, the ruling parties need to assign multiple verifiers to be accessed.
I mean, it seems to be an implementation.
Yes, I mean, so this is one part in the resilience part, and also the part is for the interoperability that it can have choose the different verifiers to compose it. It's self-required attestation results, or how to combine these attestation results by himself.
So we have 1 minute left, and Osama had a question.
Yeah, a quick question, just 1 minute answer. So let's say you have 3 verifiers, right? One of them is not available. You don't get a response. The second one is compromised. It gives you a different attestation result. And the third one is genuine. It gives you the right attestation results. The compromised one gives you different result, and the third one gives you good result, but now they are contradicting. What do you do?
So in this case, actually 3 is too small. So that I see that you have the interaction between the ring party and the verifier managers, and you have the parameter. So how robust it is, it depends on what kind of parameters you send to the verifier manager. So say that I want to have 99-degree accurate, so send me millions of the verifiers.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you recommend millions of verifiers to do one
Yeah,
verification.
so I mean that this provided the flexibility at the ring-pi side, that how many verified want and what kind of verified wants.
I don't think it's
It could be a
realistic.
Byzantine general's problem.
We're at time.
We're at time. We are meeting again on Friday. We do have some open mic time on the schedule. This might be an interesting topic to continue discussing on Friday.
It can also be brought to the mailing list. So if you have additional feedback, it could just go to the mailing list as well. So
Yeah,
thank you.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, the discussion and your comments are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a wrap.
Thank you, Ned.
Thank you.